I am a molecular geneticist, as well as a filmmaker. I direct factual documentaries as well as fictional projects. Having one foot in science and the other foot in entertainment might seem like a really unusual combination, but I hope by the end of my talk I've been able to convince you that science and fiction are not so far apart that we might think. I think I need to start where my passion for genetics began. It was year 1993, and I was in a dark movie theater with my friends, and we were watching Jurassic Park. The dinosaurs running around the island, killing people, eating them, might have been the one that stole the show for most of the audience. But for me, the thing that really got me excited was that short animation where Mr. DNA explained what is a DNA, what is a gene, and how you store information in a gene, and how you can make dinosaurs from that information. That information got me so excited that I went to study genetics in the university, all the way to a PhD in medical genetics. Now, you might think that this is a very unusual story, but it is not. There was also another phenomena in 1990s called the X-Files. For those who don't know, X-Files was a show about two FBI agents. They went around trying to find answers to unsolved cases. And they had a little bit of a trouble being successful with that because the culprits seemed to be UFOs, aliens, vampires, and definitely X-Files was not a show about scientific facts. But it was a show about urban myths and paranormal and kind of imagination. It probed the audience to question things and trying to seek answers. Now, X-Files had a lasting effect, and it influenced the world of science that we have today. See, the influence of X-Files was studied by Gina Davis Institute of Gender Media, 21st Century Fox, and J. Walter Thompson Intelligence. They concentrated the study on one of the main characters, an FBI agent called Dana Scully. She was a doctor, and she represented the scientific mind in the show. Now, that study found that the girls who in 1990s were watching X-Files are today 50% more likely to be working or have worked in a STEM field, which includes science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This phenomena is called the Dana Scully effect. You take the Dana Scully effect, and you take my experience with Jurassic Park, and you might start to question that maybe science fiction is a way to get people excited about something, get them interested enough that they want to learn more. And science fiction is perfect for it. Science fiction is a way to take something we know and then speculate what could be beyond. And you can take guesses. You can guess and get things right, or you can guess and get things wrong. But sometimes science fiction paves a way for the science to triumph. You could argue that one of the most far-reaching science fiction stories was told through generations all around the world until it culminated in 1960s. Moon landing was a triumph for science, but it was also a triumph for science fiction. See, Science starts with the speculation. The speculation becomes a hypothesis that you then set out to prove whether it's correct or not. Fiction starts with the speculation that turns into this idea that you then develop further. The speculation or the idea for moon landing started a long, long time ago, when we were still sitting around campfires, telling stories about these mysterious lights that are in the night sky. Those stories, they were later collected in books like the Indian Ramayana, where there's a mechanical something that can fly into the space. Or the Arabian 1001 Night, where there's a mechanical horse that can fly to the stars. You come generations later, and in the 17th century, there were already writings about what kind of societies could live in our solar system, and depictions of what Earth would look if you would look at it from the moon. You come closer to our time in the 19th century. There were dreamers like Jules Verne and Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, who dream about the mechanics of space travel. All those stories finally culminated in 1969, when what was once science fiction went to hypothesis and then to a scientific fact, the moment Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon. There's a lot of things that we take for granted, that we have mobile phones, virtual reality, video calling, and personal advertising. They all lived once in the minds of dreamers. Sometimes it paves the way when you imagine something that is impossible. It can come true in sometimes surprising ways. However, the depiction of science is important. The way entertainment tells stories about science and scientists matters. It mattered to me, for me to become a geneticist after I watched Jurassic Park. And studies show that I am not the only one. See, the way entertainment depicts science influences how the audiences understand scientific discoveries. Because we don't stop learning just because we are being entertained, which is fortunate and unfortunate. Now, as a filmmaker though, I can completely understand that scientific facts can feel hindering and confining when you just want to let your imagination file free and you just want to think what could lie beyond what we already know. However, sometimes when you look at things from several different perspectives, you can find something you didn't even think it's possible or you couldn't dream. So why don't you give science a chance? See, my own PhD was about progressive deafness and blindness, called the Usher Syndrome. I studied for years this condition. I knew the biological facts. I knew the mutations. I knew the effects of the mutations. And I knew that the patients had an eyesight that started to diminish from the edges, and the destruction would go inwards toward the center of the clear vision until it was like a dark tunnel with the clear center. And it made sense because I knew the biology. And the biology was that the light-sensitive cells called photoreceptors started dying in the edges of the vision, and the death of the cells proceeded towards the clear center until there was the dark tunnel with the tiny clear center where you could see. I thought that this was a fact. And I thought this was a thing that I wanted to do a feature about. So I set out to find out the story within my PhD. And I started to look at my PhD from the filmmaker's perspective. Now, one conversation with the patient completely destroyed everything I took for granted. She told me that she didn't see this dark tunnel with the clear center. She saw the world. She saw even colors. Now she knew she couldn't really see the world. Her eyesight really was that dark tunnel with the really tiny clear center. But her brain was lying to her. Her brain was creating the world from her memory and the little information the eyes were giving her brain until she saw the entire world. But she couldn't see her hands moving in front of her unless she was looking straight at them. This new information, it led the scientist and the filmmaker in front of a new set of questions. How much do we really know about our brains? How much do we really know about the capabilities of our brains? I don't know where this will take the scientist or the filmmaker. Only time will tell. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be new stories and new scientific discoveries that will in turn influence and inspire each other. And I hope I've been able to convince you that science and fiction, they truly are two sides of the same quest, a quest to find out what lies beyond what we know today. Thank you.